Today, I'm going to talk about this concept of wife privileges. I'm trying to make sure I enunciate for you because I'm saying wife instead of girlfriend, wife privileges. This is something that actually came up in ChazzEllis Raw last night. I do that on the Guy channel. And I had somebody ask me about how they can do certain things to bring value to a relationship without giving up wife privileges. And I thought that was really interesting because I've actually heard this quite a bit. It wasn't like I'm not just picking on that one person because I've heard this quite a bit of times and I've worked with a lot of women who have kind of a similar ideology. Whereas basically they're saying the way to get into a relationship with somebody is by, or the way to get married, I should say, is by holding back things that a wife would give. And I think the issue here and why it doesn't really work, I mean, of course, you can always find a few people that it works for, but on average, it doesn't really work very well. And I'm pulling this because I've been doing this for almost 9 years, as a lot of you guys know. So I talk to a ridiculous amount of women. I work with a ridiculous amount of women, and I work with women from all different walks of life. Some of you know that I've worked with you before. So you know that I work with women from all different walks of life. And this whole, I'm trying to withhold things that I would consider to be wife privileges in order to get somebody to wife me up has, I don't see any success rate, but it has to have an extremely low success rate because I've seen so many people try it, but I never see it actually work. All right. I never see it actually work. Now, one of the big reasons why it doesn't work is because I want you to understand this concept. The things that you consider to be wife privileges are usually going to be things you probably don't want to do. So you're considering them wife privileges, or they're going to be things that actually mark the difference between a relationship and a friendship. Unfortunately, the issue you're going to run into in most cases is you're not going to accept the same from the other person. So you might be like, well, I'm not going to give a boyfriend wife privileges. Fine. But if he says, well, I'm not going to give a girlfriend husband privileges, then that's when you're going to be at a problem. Think about it. I always want you to take things, when you get advice from somebody, take it and reverse it, or take it and put it out in a different space and see how that works. Like if it's a relationship thing, because this is how relationship advice usually goes. Someone tells you something and they say, this is how it works. And if it doesn't work that way, resort to shaming tactics. So yeah, don't give a man wife privileges. If that doesn't make him want to marry you, then he's not a real man. That's the shaming tactics. That's the caveat. This really doesn't work. So if and when it doesn't work, we're just gonna make indictments on the person. Now I want you to reverse that and put that kind of advice out in the real world. So I used to manage salespeople. A salesperson comes up to me and says, hey, the sales tactics aren't working. Oh, well, they're not a real customer. They're a narcissist. That's why it's not working on them. That person was starved thinking like that. They was starved to death. This is kind of what's going on with the whole wife privileges. Because in reality, when you say that, you're not going to accept the same strategy from the person you're in a relationship with. If he says, I'm not giving you husband privileges, and I consider husband privileges to be anything that benefits you, much in the way you probably are saying wife privileges are things that benefit them. Well, I'm not taking you out to dinner because that's a wife privilege. I'm not spending money on you because that's a wife privilege. I'm not accepting calls and talking about your problems and talking about your day because that's a wife privilege. I'm not sending good morning texts because that's a wife privilege. I'm not putting you on my Instagram or my social media because that's a wife privilege. We can go on and on and on. You're not meeting my family. That's a wife privilege. In most cases, if somebody was to say that to you or someone was to feel that way towards you, ultimately you're probably not going to be that interested in that person anymore. I know people say stuff for the purposes of that we're on the internet, but let's be real. In real life, you are going to lose interest in that person even if you liked them in the past. This is the problem with this old outdated advice. The advice works in some cases if you started it when it still could have worked. Okay. So don't give a boyfriend wife privileges. That's cool to tell your 14-year-old daughter or your high school kid or your kid is just getting into college, because at that point in time, it's not like, they've been giving out, they probably haven't been giving out sex and things of that nature maybe by then. So they're starting from zero. They're starting from scratch. So they could be like, I ain't giving no boyfriend wife privileges. Yeah, they'll probably never marry that particular dude. But if they keep that philosophy up and they get married while they're still really young, cool. It probably will work out. I'll give you that. But that's because you started it from start to finish. What a lot of y'all are doing is, mommy and daddy told you not to give a boyfriend wife privileges back when you were 15, 16, 17 years old. You didn't listen then. Now you're 35, 36, 37, 38, 40, maybe even older, and you're trying to follow that advice after the fact. Well, I'm going to stop giving these guys wife privileges because that's the thing that's messing me up. Yeah, guys are breaking up with me because I'm cooking for them. Guys are breaking up with me because I'm having sex with them. Guys are breaking up with me because I'm making their lives comfortable. This is why guys aren't taking the next step with me. That is ridiculous. Let me tell you something else that's just as ridiculous as far as men are concerned so you can understand it. Because a lot of times we do a little bit better when we can point the finger at somebody else. And then sometimes we can see the negative in ourselves. This is like guys who say women like assholes. I know y'all have heard this before. I've been nice to women my whole life. Women don't like nice guys. Women like assholes. You hear this all the time. Now, so you're telling me that the woman stopped talking to you or the woman put you in the friend zone because you took her out to dinner, you spent money on her, you gave her everything that she wanted and needed. This is why she stopped talking to you. Because of that. That's why she put you in the friend zone. No. That's ridiculous. When you really think about it, it's ridiculous. It's not that women like assholes. It's that women like certain types of guys, and those guys have a ridiculous amount of options. So therefore, they behave as if the girl is not that valuable to them, which makes her call him an asshole. Now let's flip this back to what I talked about with the wife privileges. You may think that somebody who is doing the least amount for a guy is getting the guy because of that. But the reality is they're getting away with doing the least amount because they probably got a dude who put them up on a pedestal, who felt like she was way better than him, either way better looking, way better status, way more money, way more cars, whatever the heck the situation was. He probably put her on a pedestal. And that's why she was able to get away with the no wife privileges. She might have done it when she was really young. She might have done this in 1965 when he didn't have a bunch of options or a bunch of people to choose from. This advice works at that time because it works for certain situations, but it doesn't take into consideration the totality of the circumstances. Telling a dude to act like an asshole to get girls is asinine. It's not going to work. And if it does work, it's not because that strategy works. It's because you're operating at a level that's so high that women are tolerating your behavior. If you notice, most guys who tell other guys to do that have money, are good looking, have swag and style. So it's like, yeah, I treat these girls like crap and it works for me. Yeah, you're treating them like crap because you can get away with it. Anything will work. Whatever you do will work. If you got somebody like Brad Pitt, like, yeah, I treat these girls like crap and it works for me. Really, Brad? Really? It works for you? Well, here, I'll try this. Try this, Brad. Let's try this. I want you to go out and just curse women out on the street. And I want to see if you still get women at a super high rate. Because you know what? He would. He may not get every single girl, but the fact that it's Brad Pitt, he's still going to get women at a super high rate. They're going to go, oh my God, Brad is so cute. He's so hilarious. He just cursed me out, girl. But I know he didn't mean it. It's going to be like, we're tolerating this from you because of the level you operate at, not because that particular strategy works. Trying the whole, I'm not going to give a man wife privileges thing, I'm not going to give a boyfriend wife privileges, that doesn't actually change anything. That doesn't actually make the guy like you more. In most cases, what it does is it takes a person who actually does like you and makes it so y'all can't build a bond outside of sex. And if you're not having sex, you end up in the friend zone in a lot of cases. Yo, for y'all that want to get up at the top of the questions, I'm gonna answer questions here in a minute. Hit that super chat button and ask me questions through the super chat. That's what I'm gonna put at the top. And some of y'all may or may not get to you at the end. But if you want to be at the top, you want me to get to you, support the chat, hit the super chat button. So this is something that a lot of women believe. A lot of women are taught to believe this type of stuff, and unfortunately, it doesn't take into account the fact that the higher level type of guy you're trying to get, the more options that he has, the more opportunities that dude is going to have. So trying all these different manipulation techniques generally only works if you're willing to date a few rungs below where you are. So yeah, it'll work if you're willing to date somebody who you don't find to be as attractive. It'll work if you get with somebody who you don't think is as cool, doesn't have as much money, doesn't have status, doesn't have relationship options. But the reality is, if you try that on people who have that, 99 times out of 100, it's not going to work. Maybe it would have worked in 1985, maybe even 1999, maybe even 2000. But now it's not going to work because society has become global. Because now you're competing with people who live thousands of miles away from you, where you used to only be competing with people in your own neighborhood. If you were a 10, you could write your own ticket in your neighborhood. But now, if you're a 10 even, you're competing with 10s all over the world, because normally you're competing with people for people at a high level, and they have options all over the place. You know, they made these phones, they made this internet, and the thing is, like a lot of game that used to work back in the day, it just does not work anymore, because now there's so many options for people that the only thing you can do to set yourself apart is obviously put your best foot forward and get the opportunities, but then you have to build a real connection with somebody. And anything that you're taking out of the equation to help you build a real connection is going to make it more likely for them to leave you out in the cold. I tell this same thing to guys. You can't go out there and say, look, girl, I'm not willing to do anything to build value, but I'm going to get the girl anyway. You should be feeling me anyway. I'm just gonna stand out amongst all these other guys, even though I'm not doing anything to build value with you, even though I'm not building a real connection. It's not going to work that way. There's just too much competition. The competition has gone through the freaking roof. And if you are not doing things to separate yourself so much that the numbers don't bother you, it's kind of like this. If 1,000 people go to a tryout for basketball, that means that you have almost no chance of making the team. But if you were LeBron or Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant, well, then your chances have not been affected because of what you're doing, because of what you've done to separate yourself from everybody else. Yeah, of course, you know, you got the genetic lottery, but those guys are also really extremely hard workers. They don't come to the game and talk about, well, I'm coming to the tryout, but I'm not going to give you basketball player privileges until I make the team. Obviously, you're not going to make the team doing that. Like, I'm not shooting the ball. That's a basketball player privilege, and I'm not on the team. I'm not playing defense. That's a basketball player privilege, and I'm not on the team. Y'all need to pay me, though, as if I was on the team. But I'm not doing any basketball player privileges until I get on the team. Even LeBron, even Jordan, even Kobe, those dudes wouldn't make it if they came out and did that. They would pick guys who weren't even as talented. This is where a lot of you ladies really get left behind. All right, let's hit this super chat. If you want to ask me something, you want to get at the top of the list because I'll work my way down and take questions, hit that super chat button. If I miss you, don't get mad because I told you.
Girl, you gotta hold out for at least 90 days. And then he gonna snatch you up and marry you right away. I know that's what your mother did to me. The only girl I knew that was putting out was Mary Jane Robinson. Boy, and I couldn't get her because everybody was trying to smash that. So I went on ahead and settled down with your mother. And we've been happy ever since. You know, happy-ish. So you've been listening to this goofy-ass game that's had you chasing men like the police. Well, click the link below and check out the How to Get Them to Chase You masterclass.